Okay, so this is Garrett's top 11 90s action movies. You're gonna be in on this with me, Lincoln. Or kind of be
All right.
you'll be doing it blind, but you'll be interested by some of my choices here. So this is top 11 uh, honorable mentions. I decided to just do like four honorable mentions. These are like four movies that I thought of when I was making the list, but not movies that I like enough to say, oh yeah, I fuck with that movie so hard. And some of these I do, and I just watched one of these the other day. So the four movies are Mission Impossible, The Matrix, The Professional, and The Crow. And
Pretty good, pretty good.
I just watched The Crow again last night, and still a great movie. I can't wait to watch the remake. Still don't feel like it cracks my top 11, interestingly enough. And I think that's more because it's much more of a stylized movie than I would say a straight up hardcore action movie. But I do put it in the action genre, and it just didn't quite crack the top. Mission Impossible didn't quite crack the top either because I don't think
Interesting.
the first Mission Impossible is as good as some of the later Mission Impossible. I think Mission Impossible as a franchise is probably most notable for having like a pretty mid first couple of movies and then having like pretty good later couple of movies.
It's one of the rare reverse equations.
Yeah. Then The Matrix. This one I was like really going back and forth on about like how I felt about it. Um, I like the action in the movie. I like things about the movie in general. I think I just have to like and again, like with anything on this list, it's totally interchangeable. It could change any day. This is just how I felt when I made the list. But The Matrix didn't quite make the cut. And then there's The Professional, otherwise known as Leon. Um,
Leon the Professional.
yeah,
I mean, that movie rocks.
yeah. I love that movie. That movie's great. It just didn't quite crack the top because it makes me feel a little ewy sometimes.
It's a little icky.
It's a little icky, but I also recognize that it's pretty badass in certain moments. But yeah, so anyway, getting into the rest of the list proper, we're getting into number 11, The Boondock Saints.
Interesting. Also, a movie that kind of makes me feel icky at some points, but I love it.
Yes, yes. This movie is really funny. I always remember Willem Dafoe's performance in this as the gay detective. He's really funny. The two guys, Sean Patrick Flannery and Norman Reedus.
Norman Reedus.
Norman Reedus, obviously most famous for his role in as Daryl in The Walking Dead. But dude,
Got his own show.
this is a great movie. This movie's way funnier than it has any right to be. The Rocco character is super funny. The action sequences are like perfectly over the top. Just like my kind of action for an action movie. And now I try to watch this movie every year on St. Patrick's Day.
That's incredible. Hot take. Second one's better.
Really, I haven't seen it.
Really?
All Saints Day? No, I haven't seen it.
Ah, second one slaps, bro.
I'll have to check it out.
You have no idea.
Yeah, I can't wait. So that's number 11. Number 10, Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Gross.
Gross. It was
I don't
basically
acknowledge any of the sequels.
I basically so when we did the Die Hard episode, I had mentioned that I think my second favorite one is Die Hard with a Vengeance. And so when I was making this list, I was like, it didn't even come down to, oh, do I like Die Hard 2 or Die Hard 3 better? I was just immediately, I was like, Die Hard with a Vengeance because it's so different from the first two movies. Like, the first movie is like the Die Hard movie. It's got that formula. It's got its own thing. Die Hard 2 is basically just a rehashing of that, just in a different setting. And then Die Hard 3 is where it becomes its own separate thing. It's kind of like the first of the Die Hard movies to kind of branch out and just do something different. And I really respect it for that. I really love the performances in it. I love the stakes in it. Jeremy Irons and Samuel L. Jackson have their own great roles that they come together and just have a really amazing thing. And the action's really good. The stakes are incredible. I love the whole like cat and mouse game throughout the whole thing, and I just really enjoyed that.
Why do you keep calling me Hey Zeus? He says, that's your name, right? And he goes, no. He said, Hey Zeus.
It's such a funny movie too. Like I love lines like that. So yeah, that's number 10. Number 9, The Mummy. We,
Classic.
we were just talking about Arnold Vosloo, and yeah, he was the mummy in this movie. Brendan Fraser kicks ass in this movie. I really like this movie for mainly the same reasons I like a lot of movies. It's very nostalgic to me. This is probably one of the most nostalgic movies on this list. I've got a few.
Classic.
I've got like two or three more ones that are just like absolutely nostalgic, and they probably rank as high as they do because of nostalgia. This movie's on here for nostalgia. I also just think it's really funny. I think it's really cool. Brendan Fraser's character is like what I think of when I think of like your typical action hero kind of guy. And
You're on the wrong side of the river.
yeah, I like that it's basically this homage to pulpy, campy, like these action movies of the 50s and 60s. I really appreciate that about this movie. So, yeah, The Mummy, number 9. Going into number 8, Rush Hour. Yes. Rush Hour.
Classic.
Jackie Chan.
So silly.
I had to put a Jackie Chan movie on here. It just felt like
You had to get one.
it felt like I was doing a disservice to one of the greatest cinematic martial artists of all time if I didn't put at least one of his movies on here. And I decided to go with the movie that I have. I decided to go with his movie that I have the most nostalgia for, and that's Rush Hour. I love this movie. I think it's so funny. Even now, as an adult, I think it's still funny. I used to love it as a kid. When I was a kid and I was watching this movie, I used to die laughing at Chris Tucker.
Oh, I still do.
Yeah, now as an adult, I laugh at Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan. Whereas as a kid, I was always watching for Jackie Chan in his fights. Um, I will say, I think Rush Hour 2 is probably the better movie with the better action sequences and the better jokes. But but that was like in the 2000s, so I had to go with the original Rush Hour here. So yeah, that's number 8. Number 7, we got an oldie but a goldie. We got Demolition Man.
Wow, you had to get it in. Get it out of here. What's number 6?
I had to get it on here.
What's number 6?
You knew it was coming. You knew it
What's
was
number
happen.
6?
We have a whole podcast where we talk about Demolition Man. Make sure you go check it out.
2 of them.
2 of them technically, but just go ahead and check out the Action Jackoffs episode where we talk about it. That's my favorite one that we've done talking about it. I won't go into too much detail. I just think this is a really good.
Number 6 is.
Number 6 is Speed.
There we go. Now we're talking about a movie.
Another
A
great
classic,
movie.
a gem.
Another great movie that we've talked about before on an episode of the Action Jackoffs. That was the first time I'd ever seen the movie, was when we did that.
I'm so happy. And you're going to watch that once a year. I know you will.
So, yeah, so it's funny to think that I just watched this movie and it's already like,
so high.
It's already so high on my list of favorite 90s action movies. It almost cracks the top 5. It doesn't quite crack the top 5.
Oh, Point Break's going to be your number 2. Let me tell you.
Well, I have not included movies I haven't seen.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
But
once you see it, it's going to be way up there.
Yeah.
You have no idea.
Yeah. So, like I said, I won't say much about Speed I haven't already said before. Make sure you go check out the episode of Action Jackoffs where we talk about Speed, and then you'll get most of my thoughts there. And yeah. So, moving on to number 5. This is the top 5. Start with Total Recall. 19 slaps. That's pretty much all you have to say about it. The 90s. When I think about the 90s, as much as I do the 80s, I think about Arnold Schwarzenegger movies.
That's when he really took over.
I mean, because especially with Total Recall, this was 1990, so this was like right at the cutoff. And I love Total Recall. Total Recall is funny. Total Recall has, I don't really think of the action when I think of Total Recall, except for like a few moments, like that scene where he's beating up those guys that tried to jump him after he got out of recall. and he kind of like kills them, but like he doesn't realize what he's doing until he's already like killed them. I
I
usually
always think of the escalator scene.
I think about the what when they're on when they're going up the escalator and that Michael Ironside's arms get chopped off.
Yeah, that as well as whenever Arnold grabs a random bystander and he gets shot into Swiss cheese.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, you
I
see,
always think of that scene.
for some reason I thought you meant elevator, so I was thinking about that other scene that I
I
never
might have
said.
said elevator on
No, no,
accident. Escalator
you
for sure.
you said escalator, and for some reason I couldn't remember an escalator sequence, and then as soon as you started describing it, I was like, oh yeah, yeah. I usually think about the effects in this movie more than I think about anything
Hmm.
else. Like I think about
Good squibs,
the
crazy,
squibs,
crazy animatronic effects with some of the
yeah,
like
like
aliens and stuff.
the um the head, like
Yes,
the
yes,
head
the
that opens
tumorous
up,
head monster thing.
yeah, and the mutant coming out of that one dude's stomach,
Hmm.
and then like the X-ray wall, like the wall that's just like all X-rays. I think about so much of that shit. Uh, like so much of that movie is just like iconic to me, and whether or not it has to do with the action is kind of like up in the air. I like it as more of like a science fiction movie than I do as an action movie, but since it's an action movie, it ranks really high on my action list.
Love it.
Yeah. So going on to number 4, we have True Lies.
Ooh,
Yeah.
you sleazy dog.
Yeah. Another Schwarzenegger movie. I couldn't help it. I had to put this one on here. I've said it before. I'll say it again. It's my personal favorite James Cameron movie, except for maybe like one other movie. This is my aside from maybe Titanic. This is probably the last good James Cameron movie that's like just good with no flaws.
Avatar slaps. I'll have no disrespect on James Cameron's name.
I will not speak on that. But yeah, no, True Lies is great. Great premise. Very, very, very funny movie. I mean, this movie, it's almost like you can't, it's so hard to tell if this movie at a certain point is an action movie or a comedy, but it works best as both.
Another amazing Bill Paxton comedy performance where he's
Ah,
like wetting himself and everything.
great Bill Paxton performance. Great Jamie Lee Curtis performance. And I dare say this is probably one of the best acting performances from Arnold himself.
It's the most natural. He feels like he's really like playing. He's really having fun.
Yes, yes, and you could just tell that from what he puts on screen. So yeah, that's number 4. Number 3, Blade.
There we go. Now we're talking.
I love Blade. Blade is so fun. It is a fun, campy, over the top, just in your face type of movie. Um, I love Blade.
Absolutely cannot wait
We might
to talk
even.
about this
I was about to
one.
say we might be talking about this one come October, so keep an eye
Oh,
out.
it's just I just can't wait to sink my teeth into it.
You had to say it.
I had to.
All right. So getting into number 2,
Ooh,
we have probably the most well put together of these movies. We got Terminator 2.
ah, speaking of Cameron,
Yes, this is what I was
what a
referencing.
legend.
This is what I was referencing when I was like, this is probably when I said True Lies is probably my favorite James Cameron movie aside from one other movie. This is probably the one I was talking about.
It's just
Uh,
a chef's kiss, is all it is.
Now, do I prefer the original Terminator? Probably.
I do as well. But if we're talking about just an absolute masterpiece that has no flaws whatsoever, you gotta be talking about T2.
T2 is up there for sure. T2, like I said, is probably the most well put together of these movies, the most well made. I think at the time it was the most expensive movie ever made, and you could really tell that
Is
from the
is a
effects.
phenomenon.
I love the special effects in this movie. I love the action in this movie. I love Arnold in this movie. And yes, I am aware that 3 of my top 5 favorite 90s action movies are all Arnold movies. That's just the name of the game. You know,
When he took the belt, he had the 90's championship action hero belt
Ex-
around his waist for the whole 90's, let me tell you.
exactly. And then once he retired in like 2003, that's pretty much like we were just done with making
He just
movies.
put it away.
Yeah,
He put it on the shelf.
he put the whole genre on the shelf. But no, yeah, Terminator 2 I think is just pretty much flawless in all regards, but it is surpassed by one movie ahead
One
of it,
movie.
and that movie is The Mask of Zorro.
I hate you. You wasted all of my time for this bit.
No,
You
no.
think the Mask of Zorro is watchable?
The Mask of Zorro is my number
I'm about to
one.
hang up.
The The Mask of Zorro is my number
And you made
one.
me stay up all this time for this to be your number one above Terminator?
This is definitely the
I
movie I
spit on your
recommend.
grave.
I definitely recognize, I'll definitely be the first to admit that I have a lot of nostalgia for this movie. That is why it's at number one. But when I watch this movie, it reminds me so much of some of my favorite movies of all time. Like I get Batman 89 vibes from this movie a lot. I get Crow vibes. I get um, just so many vibes from a lot of my favorite movies from this movie. Indiana Jones is in there. Um, this is my favorite Antonio Banderas movie. I think the action in it is amazing. I think it's so funny. I think it's such a charming movie. I think that's what it gets me. It's such a charming movie.
You think the bee from the Nasonex commercial is better than Terminator 2?
It's got Anthony Hopkins.
Garrett, you're broken.
Maybe, but I'll let the people
You put this
decide.
above Speed?
I'll let the people decide. I'm telling you, man.
Hey,
I'm telling
dude,
you.
you've got lost all your subscribers for this, let me tell you.
I'm putting you on game right now. I
I'm
promise you.
unsubscribing.
I'm putting you on absolute game right now. The Mask of Zorro is it. It is him.
I'm sorry, but
He has risen.
alright, well, it's been a good night talking to you guys on the Action Jackson podcast.
All right, all right. I'll put that one away. I'll put that one to bed.